why I stopped listening to Joe Rogan. I'm sure this is going to be completely neutral and not politically biased at all.
Should I make a follow-up video to this saying why I started listening to Joe Rogan?
I mean, like Joe Rogan is the #1 podcaster for a reason. He is a good guy to have a conversation with. Not like I'd know.
Thanks. I'm out here trying my best. I know I'm not like that good, but
no, I was implying that I'd never spoken to Joe Rogan personally.
Oh, I thought you were like shit talking like. He has good people hopping on with his streams and shit. People that actually can have a conversation without bringing up Adachi for 2 fucking seconds. It's like, whoa, dude.
I'm Mr. Beast, and I have another confession to make.
Mr. Beast!
I'm a really big fan of Joseph James Rogan. Like,
bro says drop the middle name.
Really big fan.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Yeah, that's the guy. Joe Rogan, the comedian, actor, UFC commentator, reality TV.
Are you getting a whole history of Joe Rogan?
Yes!
I loved him. I loved him like dogs love.
First a Sonic fucking history of, and now a Joe Rogan history
Rogan history. Dude, it's like, yeah, because it's almost like Joe Rogan just like, I'm not saying he like grifted to the right wing, but obviously he was like
he slowly drifted over that way, getting more right wing people on.
I mean, it was basically like when like Elon Musk basically bought Twitter, then he started seeing stuff for himself, right, in his X algorithm, and obviously like having friends like Dana White and Elon Musk that will. And obviously, like, I don't know, seeing like weird articles such as like why going to the gym is like fascist or whatever. You know, it's like you get some reflexive response, even if you are like pro UBI, pro like universal health care, whatever. It's just like you can be left wing and still acknowledge like crazy salon articles.
Yep.
Wait, Captain Brunch says, Manic, I'd like to request you watch a video top 10 hottest Sonic females by GovTills89. I'm gonna. Okay, I'm just gonna.
Dick heaven. Here we go.
Okay, I'm just gonna. Okay. I saved that. So we'll get to that at some point.
Ban you real quick. I'm just gonna time you out.
Maybe that was a weird metaphor.
I'm just gonna delete that comment.
8 years of my life, I was constantly listening to Joe's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience,
And the elites themselves believe they're racing using human technology.
What, dude? What is this like clip art garbage? Literally a stock photo of a laptop would be better.
You know, you don't need to do these fancy fucking like croppings and shit. You can just put the thing on the screen.
Is this supposed to be like the teacher aesthetic?
Probably, but it looks lazy. It just doesn't look good.
During those 8 years, I pretty much listened to every.
Also, like he just put like a PNG of himself in the video. Like could he not just like green screen himself in the center?
Nope, that's a bit too much effort.
Single episode. Well, other than the UFC and Fight Companion episodes, I couldn't care less about mixed martial arts.
Oh yeah, okay. Like Amy Schumer was like people really liked Amy Schumer back when she was on the Joe Rogan Experience way back in like over 10 years ago now.
So the only reason why people found woman funny is because man funny, therefore woman funny.
I mean, I'm not gonna pretend but like basically.
Oh, you love Amy Schumer.
I'm saying I'm not gonna pretend like I remember those old episodes from like I don't even remember how long ago. But people did like Amy Schumer back then, and then the whole like stealing jokes thing came out, and then like she had that one like 2016 Netflix special everyone. Then like she like chimped out all about it. Like
Joe Rogan
trashed out.
Those 8 years, I pretty much listened to every single episode. Well,
yeah, like if you see in the top right, that's Amy Schumer right there, and then you can see that's one of the that's a very old set and very low quality.
Other than the UFC and Fight Companion episodes, I couldn't care less about mixed martial arts. But yeah, that's thousands of hours of my life listening to this.
These apes rather, started consuming psilocybin mushrooms, and it led them to be more creative.
And I wasn't the only one, dude. There are others. The Joe Rogan Experience is one of...
Is the monkey me?
Program.
Am I the creative monkey?
I'm sure you've heard of it. I mean, that's probably why many of you clicked on this video to watch. For many years, it was the #1 podcast around. And remember, there are like literally...
It was beaten out by the Talk to a podcast. Hell yeah.
Even my great-grandfather has a podcast. And he's dead. Hundreds of millions, if not billions.
Funny joke.
people at this point have listened to at least one episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. It's helped.
I haven't listened to an actual episode of it yet. I never will, out of principle, just to spite this guy. Just so like just so that one line he said is not true.
Or but you still got to make that video why I started listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got to make the
reveal.
Then you got to make the top 10 Joe Rogan Experience episodes.
I got to hop on Joe Rogan.
That would be great.
Dude, imagine like 0 to 100. Like, I don't listen to shit at all. Next day, hi, what's up, Joe? How's it going?
Worst
Joe,
view.
more like Joe Mama. Like, worst disliked Joe Rogan Experience podcast of all time.
Bro, yeah, dude. Like, it would become one of the infamous episodes.
I would do my best to make sure that episode tanked. I'd be like, so Joe, do you know about Adachi? It's like, imagine an hour-long explanation. It's like the worst explanation possible about these characters. It'd be fucking horrible. That'd be great.
The culture helped presidents get elected.
Imagine if I get him to say, oh, he just like me, for real, for real. He takes a puff of his marijuana.
Okay, so Mr. B just asserted that Joe Rogan helped Donald Trump get elected in 2024. Just
like,
so you know.
If he helped at all, it was like the most minimal help ever.
It was like Donald Trump was on his podcast. That's what helped him. And also, not to mention, Donald Trump performed well on the podcast. Right?
And like, not only that, he was asking Kamala to hop on. Like, by all means, like, Kamala could have hopped on the podcast and maybe she would have done a little bit better, right?
Yeah, so apparently Kamala Harris, the reason she like had a whole like rally in Houston, I'm pretty, this is like Beyonce was set to, like, everybody thought Beyonce. I'm pretty sure it was Beyonce. It could be somebody else. I'm not too, this is months ago, obviously, but somebody was like, everybody thought she was going to perform there. So a lot of people was going to go just to see the performance. Then Beyonce or somebody, if I'm misremembering it, like went on stage, was like, vote blue, and then just like disappeared. And then the entire crowd disappeared with her.
Power move. Absolutely based.
No, but like why would you do that in Houston, right? That she literally did it just to try to like go on to the Joe Rogan Experience. Because you like
Kamala's whole campaign was just a shit show, start to finish.
Yeah. Dude, I want her to run again in 2028 so bad, dude. It's gonna be great.
He was legit an actual friend of mine. You're looking at a picture taken of me and a woman who, for some strange reason, married me. You may know her as Mrs. Beat. This picture was taken in 2014. And if you asked Mrs. Beat what she thought of Joe Rogan at that time, she probably would have rolled her eyes and said that.
Oh, did he change his opinion because his wife wanted him to? What a fucking cock move.
Considering it's from 2014, I'm assuming he has his own agenda.
I mean, he's had 10 years to formulate his own opinions. Yeah. But hopefully they're the same as his wife's, you know?
Yeah.
In every conversation we had. Oh, that reminds me of the Joe Rogan episode I was listening to the other day. Oh man, you should check out the latest episode of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had a guy on who thinks he's seen Bigfoot 6 times. Joe Rogan says we should take more vitamin D to increase our life expectancy.
Pat, shut up about Joe Rogan.
For people who are watching who may think that I'm making this up, convince them that I actually was...
Blue Yeti microphone.
I searched Joe Rogan in my email on August 14th, 2013. You were excited that he might do meet and greets and you were wanting to meet him.
But eventually Mrs. Beat got into...
Why would you email your... Oh, I don't know the Mr. Beat lore when it comes to this. Why would you email your wife?
Okay, let's just... like, we're looking... like, that's the wrong thing we should be trying to focus on.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
To let me spend way too much money to see him perform his stand-up comedy live in Kansas City back in 2018. But by 2020, my perception of Joe Rogan had begun to change. I found myself skipping episodes more and more. I found myself getting annoyed with him more and more. By the end of 2021, I had stopped listening to him altogether.
Okay, so he didn't even stop recently. He stopped in 2021.
So he stopped 4 years ago. So what?
I guess since the knives are out for Joe Rogan now, I'm imagining that's why he's doing it. Let's see what his reasoning is.
parasocial relationship I had with him was over. In this video, I'm going to explain why.
Skip.
Before I explain to you why I stopped listening to Joe Rogan, I think it makes sense to explain why I started listening to him in the first place. The day was December 16th, 2011. I tuned into The Tonight Show to watch Jay Leno interview one of my favorite politicians of all time, Ron Paul. If you don't know, Paul was a popular congressman from Texas running for president at the time. And to my surprise, out comes Joe Rogan to enthusiastically endorse Ron Paul for president. I truly did not see this coming. You see, before December 16th, 2011, I didn't really like Joe Rogan at all. I knew him from two things, mainly news radio and Fear Factor, and his appearances in both of those shows did not convince me to like him.
It's crazy seeing him with hair.
At best, and obnoxious at worst.
Actually, yeah, holy shit.
I couldn't stand the guy. But then here
It doesn't look right.
Jay Leno endorsing my boy, Ron Paul. And I was like, maybe I should revisit this Joe Rogan fella. Soon after this, I noticed his podcast was one of the most popular podcasts in the world, so I gave it a try. I was hooked. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was rough. This was back when Brian Redband was on the program producing. The audio had issues.
We have 2 commercials that we do.
Brian Redband, isn't he with Kill Tony now?
I don't know.
Yeah. Kill Tony, you may recognize him from the Madison Square Garden Trump rally where he made a Puerto Rico joke that was quite controversial.
Oh, good. I don't know how to use Windows, little Jimmy. Just switched over to Windows.
Many of his guests seemed to be under the influence of drugs. Many of them didn't know what the heck they were talking about half the time.
Smoke weed every day.
Fun. Good vibes and good open-minded people. And I felt like I was eavesdropping.
Imagine if somebody made like a Joe Rogan Experience retrospective of like the early
Like 10-hour long Joe Rogan start to.
I mean, like with these podcasts, they're quite long, so you're gonna have to parse through a lot of footage.
You have to actually just not touch grass for like a year to make that whole video.
The early years of Joe Rogan. It's like,
Really intriguing conversations. Plus, it was like a peek behind the curtain. Before podcasts like the Joe Rogan Experience, we rarely got such intimate glimpses into the private lives of big-time Hollywood celebrities. I got even more into the podcast when Joe started inviting guests who are outside of his circle of comedian and MMA friends. He started having actual experts in specialized fields on. Doctors, journalists, scientists. But here's the thing. Whenever Joe had guests on who were experts in specialized fields, he didn't pretend to know more than them. He showed humility. He shut up and let them talk. When
he shut up.
He often asked questions.
Shut up, a woman
Here's the most
speaking.
important part. Joe was curious. In those early years, Joe let his own curiosity guide each and every interview. He had people on whom...
Who's this Adachi guy? And why does everyone say true with him? I'm so curious. It's like, oh, Joe, don't even get me started.
Each and every interview.
Strap in, buddies.
But heard them out anyway. Sure, he still had stuff he passionately cared about, like the legalization of recreational drugs and UFOs. However, if he didn't know much about a topic, he shut his mouth and listened.
That multiverse might be infinite and eternal
Where are they?
outside of our universe.
How's that even possible?
Of course it's possible.
I understand. I'm not
Okay.
questioning it.
Okay, no,
I
no.
just define it. This idea that there's
I mean, those are good questions, but you can tell even in that clip, Joe Rogan is kind of squinting at him.
Dude, he's high as hell as well.
Yeah.
Like, you do not need to tell a man that's like 30 puffs in, like, oh, this universe outside of our universe, man. It's like, that's the one thing you shouldn't tell a guy who is high off his ass.
nothing or no thing that we can't even wrap our head around.
Okay, can we?
Done.
Also had people on who were not experts in their fields, but he believed them to be experts because he already wanted to believe in what they were saying. Also, when he did tend to have actual experts on, they tended to be experts who were just better at talking than most of their colleagues. It didn't mean they were more knowledgeable than their colleagues. They just could communicate the stuff better. And yeah,
I mean, having good communication skills is kind of important for a podcast, believe it or not.
Like, you can know so much shit, but if you can't communicate what you know to someone who doesn't know it at all, it doesn't matter that you know it. Like, if you're going onto a podcast to explain your thoughts or this cool stuff that you're aware of, you need to actually be able to explain it to like the layman, the just average dude.
Exactly.
experts, he'd invite them back on, and that expert would then proceed to often talk about stuff they clearly knew very little about. Despite all that, Joe was a likable person because he always seemed so down to earth and authentic.
Should we skip to the downfall?
Yes, because this is just boring. Like,
okay, this is the highlight.
As early as 2019, though, I did begin to notice that he tended to mostly have people on the show who he already agreed with, and if he disagreed with a guest, even if they were a friend, he'd push back a bit much further than I'd like. But things really went down.
So basic human shit. Just actual basic human conversation. I like this guy. I agree with him. Let's have him on. Because I don't agree with what you just said. I'm going to push back on what you just said. Why? Because I don't... Is he upset that, like, Joe Rogan isn't just, like, a fucking AI machine that's just meant to have other people on? Like, it's his podcast. He's his own man. He has his own thoughts and opinions. Boo-hoo. Like, is that what got him to... Like, if that's what got you to stop listening to him, why the fuck did you make a 20-minute video bitching about this?
This is so funny, man. He gets disagreeable sometimes. Oh no.
COVID-19 pandemic. When's the first time you remember me saying something negative about Joe Rogan?
Well, that would be around the pandemic.
I swear, that pandemic broke so many people's brains. And don't get me wrong.
Is he really gonna go to bat for Dr. Fauci in the great 2025?
Dr. Fauci.
I get it. It was a difficult and stressful time. Millions of people died. The lockdowns sucked. We had a
Did millions die in America? Like, actually,
I don't remember the exact statistic, but clearly lockdowns were not the solution to this.
No.
Weren't used to sacrificing their freedoms, but due to so many folks going through hard times during the pandemic, a lot of people indeed got more radicalized. That included many celebrities who then influenced millions of others to become more radicalized. And let me be clear here.
Joe Rogan is a part of the alt-right pipeline.
He radicalized a whole group, a whole generation of young men.
No way.
Radicalized, all I mean is that they had views more radically different in opposition to the status quo. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have radicalized views. I mean, we do need to get radicalized if things get bad enough. Joe did not like the lockdowns in public.
But only if it's radical in the way that I like it.
Exactly.
He had to cancel all his
like
shows.
It's a radical idea to shut down the government and lockdowns and stuff. That's a pretty like radicalized idea.
Yeah, I think
to do it to stop the spread.
Yeah, I don't know. Shutting down the entire economy seems pretty radical in of itself.
Yeah,
dare I say?
We needed to do it. Like that was good. It worked, Manic.
Yeah.
And throughout March and April of 2020, during those particularly restrictive times, he spent most of the time on his podcast complaining about how all of us couldn't just go where we wanted or do what we wanted.
They're treating everybody like babies. This is what it is, man. They're treating everybody like you're not allowed to make your own decisions, including business owners that have spent a ton of money opening up these outdoor cafes and outdoor restaurants, and then they don't even supply any science. There's not even. They are essentially autocrats, right? They're a dictator.
Still,
didn't Dr. Fauci recently he basically came out just recently in like 2025 or 2024 saying how lockdowns were not really the good tool it was.
I mean,
like it was like it's like even Dr. Burks was on Piers Morgan saying how the jab was never supposed to be like this, never transmit anything ever.
I just gotta say I'm like not super caught up with like the Dr. Fauci lore.
Fauci lore. Yeah, I don't know. This is so bad, dude.
He stayed curious.
It's just boring.
I'm going 1.5.
Well, tell everybody.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm, for lack of a better term, a medical detective. I've spent my whole career tracking infectious diseases down, trying to stop them, trying to understand where they come from so we can make sure they don't happen in the first place.
He had Dr. Michael Auststerholm on, an internationally recognized expert in infectious diseases. You can go back and watch this episode. It is aged like wine. Holds up very well. Michael Auststerholm is truly an expert. Nearly all of what he said was true and came true. Joe was receptive at the time, but in the back of his mind, you can probably guess he didn't want to hear any of it. 2 years later, Joe had him back on, and he was more combative against against Auststerholm this time. The second time Auststerholm was on, I was astounded by how arrogant Joe seemed, despite the literal freaking experts across the table from him.
Okay, this might be the smoking gun here.
Cause any pericarditis?
No, none. We've seen zero cases. Zero
Really?
cases of pericarditis, zero cases of arrhythmias. But the virus does it.
Zero. That's not what I read.
No,
I
it
read
is-
this
it is
whole
like-
thing about vaccinated people in Israel, like that there was a giant surge of vaccinated people.
No, the surge is primarily in unvaccinated people.
Yeah, he hasn't had him on ever since. But let's go back to the early
I mean, do you want to point to like the actual truth? Do you want to like fact check Joe Rogan there? Yeah, he doesn't even bother fact checking. He's like, oh, he got combative at an expert.
He pushed back against an expert, but he's the expert. You got to listen to whatever he's saying, no matter what.
stages of the COVID-19 pandemic.
COVID-19!
3 weeks after Joe had Michael Auststerholm on, things had already gotten so bad that everyone was doing everything remotely. Even Joe. His remote guest this time was someone he had on his show before, Dr. Peter Hotez, an internationally recognized expert on vaccines and tropical disease control. If you go back and watch the episode, again, practically every episode is still up. If you go back and watch it, you'll notice that Joe is still mostly trying to learn and staying quiet, but he's also visually frustrated.
How long can we go?
It's April. It's literally April of 2020. Of course, like not everybody is going to understand like the severity or consequences of that immediately. I was like not like, some people believe like, oh yeah, 2 weeks to stop the spread. Right.
2 weeks. Yep.
And then like, it had like, obviously as the fear, like the less we knew about it, the fear was the highest, the support for the lockdowns was the highest. And then as more information came out, support for these lockdowns would like gradually decrease.
I mean, if let's take economics out of it. What would you think if there was no concern whatsoever about economic loss and the damage to the economy? What would you recommend in terms of just purely from a medical perspective?
While this episode has also aged like wine, Peter Hotez is also truly an expert who forecasted the pandemic and the response accurately. He later became the target of a backlash against pandemic restrictions. And yep, Joe hasn't had him on since. You see, Joe apparently thought he was done learning everything about the COVID-19 pandemic at that point, and he felt like he didn't need to teach his audience anything new about it either. Most of the COVID-19 coverage after this was...
I mean, was he right though? Yeah, that's the important question there.
Was reactionary. He didn't have experts on. He had just people who didn't know much about the virus or pandemic giving their opinions about it, backed up by little evidence. It was mostly comedians complaining about how their tours were canceled. And then on December 31st,
is that not valid at all?
2021, Joe decides to have this guy on. Dr. Robert Malone used to be a respected doctor who helped make mRNA vaccines and furthered medicine research. However,
so okay, he helped make the technology that was being used to treat COVID. So
the pandemic appeared to break his brain too. He began spreading a bunch of misinformation about the safety and effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines.
Oh, so see, this expert's bad. This expert's bad.
Yep. Bad expert.
He misrepresented data and used his credentials.
I mean, that's why he's no longer an expert. He had that title stripped from him.
So, yeah, he's been doing credentialism for a while, for a lot of like his examples. Now this is where it doesn't apply.
Online. By the end of 2021, Joe Rogan had already made up his mind about COVID-19 vaccines. He didn't like them. So when Joe found out about Malone, he seized at the opportunity to have him on the podcast to talk trash about them. And sure enough, Rogan's audience generally ate this misinformation right up. Well, this was the last straw for me. I haven't listened to Rogan ever since. Well, except for the Auststerholm episode and the Mike Judge episode.
So you still listen to him?
Over the past 4 years,
I mean, it's because of the guests.
if you look at the guests, they're mostly just people Joe already agrees with about most things or his good friends. From the period of about 2014 to 2019, you'd see a big variety of guests. Since then, it's mostly the same cast of characters, man. Oh, look, there's that guy again. Oh, look, her again. That guy again. Just as troubling to me over the...
Okay, Russell Brand, pretty big, right? And then I don't know if he's really relevant. He seems kind of astroturf, not gonna lie. Whitney she's a comedian. Ari Shafir is a comedian.
Just as troubling to me, over the past 4 years, Joe has generally shown a complete lack of humility, a humility that legit used to be a big reason why I enjoyed listening to him so much in the first place. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, well, Mr. Beats, you just don't listen to him because you don't agree with his political views anymore. That's what it is. His politics is why you no longer listen.
That's sounding like the case. That is sounding exactly like the
The
case.
vast majority of...
If it isn't the case, you didn't do a good job explaining yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what the last bit of the video is for, I guess.
Yeah.
Many people argue that Joe Rogan's political views have moved further and further to the right in recent years. I actually don't think this is true. Joe has always been a left-leaning libertarian, much like myself actually. He still passionately supports Bernie Sanders and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, who all, and please don't forget this, all three of them still lean to the left politically. He recently had a sitting Democratic senator on as a guest. I think the difference now, though, is he's done adjusting his political views. I think his political opinions are pretty much set in stone. He's done learning new information about...
I mean, that's what happens when you're old enough at a certain point.
Change?
Public policies. He's done keeping an open mind about politics, and that's a big freaking problem. Put simply, Joe Rogan's curiosity is gone. That childlike curiosity, those inquisitive conversations that drew me to his podcast in the first place, they're just gone. What remains is a dude who is less open.
That's fine. You need to make a 30-minute video talking about it.
It's not just Joe Rogan. I think the whole culture is less curious than it used to be. And I think I know why, actually. The YouTuber Alec Watson of the phenomenal channel Technology Connections recently released a video explaining what I've been pondering for several years now. His main hypothesis in the video is that we've collectively grown way too comfortable with having algorithms feed us everything. And you know what? I agree with Alec.
I am seeing mounting evidence that an increasing number of people are so used to algorithmically generated feeds that they no longer care to have a self-directed experience that they are in control of. The more time...
That honestly, okay, this part might actually be good. But to be fair, he's just been like this is all just like complaining about Joe Rogan, then tying it to a greater point. It's like
I just made a video talking about this,
like algorithms, you know.
Like he could have talked about this ending bit as the main topic, and then say, "I used to watch Joe Rogan a lot, but here's why I stopped," and made that 4-minute segment. I think that would have been a bit better overall.
Time I spend interacting with folks online, the more it feels like large swaths of people have forgotten to exercise their own agency.
In other words, we trust algorithms too much. We've surrendered our curiosity because we now treat basic research as too cumbersome.
This part's probably like if you look at YouTube search and how much is degenerated over the years, after before you even hit the bottom of the page, it's like, oh, here's just some like random stuff that we think you'd like.
Odds are I don't.
Exactly.
In a period of history in which so many people pride themselves as being distrustful of those in power or being so-called red-pilled, we trust random people on the internet more than ever. Worse yet, we trust random bots on the internet more than ever. How many of us
take the red pill, bro? Just do it.
Just accept it as truth. Sorry if I said anything off, by the way, by just doing that. Heck, how many of us look up anything on a daily basis anymore? Instead, algorithms spoon-feed us what we want to see because we fear a life without dopamine. And who can blame us? Life is incredibly difficult out there for many of us right now. We already struggle so much that algorithms allow us to escape from that misery. But we don't realize that those same algorithms perpetuate the misery. They keep it going, and we won't be truly free and happy until we break free from those algorithms. So, I don't know, dude. Maybe Joe Rogan is just like the rest of us, stuck in his algorithms because he thinks it's easier to live his life that way. Or maybe he just likes money.
Oh, I like money.
Well, okay. What would Spotify have to like? Is Spotify making him right wing? Is that what's going on here? Is that the implication?
I don't know. Regardless,
Spotify is a big part of the alt-right.
Yeah, Spotify. Yeah, Spotify is what got Don. This is such a.
Oh, someone in chat says we trust algorithms too much, yet we should believe the expert he agrees with. I mean,
both are imperfect.
Yeah.
Both
aren't always right or always wrong, I guess.
Yeah, like just because one is bad doesn't mean the other one has to be good.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, let's detox with Reddit cringe.
Thanks. I don't know. It's just we've been doing this for like 2 hours now.
I probably don't want this guy's talking about like having a relationship with a dog. Let's skip this. Yeah.
I'm just saying, fucking, my brain's dying a bit.
You're the only girl in a tech class. This is already handled by the university. Men do not care about women or their rights.
Based.
Or you could just find one that doesn't talk, and when you ask them for consent, it's yes anytime.
This is actually cringe.
So you don't know where they're at. Saying silence is consent. If they're knocked out, consent. Say nothing if you give consent.
Okay, I'm gonna be. If I was in her position, I'd probably be scared too.
This isn't fucking Reddit cringe. This is just uncomfortable. Like
this is really uncomfortable. Yeah.
Like when I hear Reddit cringe, I expect like a 12-year-old to say something stupid in Walmart. You know, bro, cringe compilations just aren't the same. They haven't been the same since like 2016.